Good morning, everybody. Firstly, I would like to begin by apologizing for the technical snag that we face. This is unprecedented. Today is the 39th webinar that we are hosting since the beginning of the pandemic, more than a year back. I think 7th probably for me, if not more. And we've never been unable to start on time. We've always started on time or maybe even a minute ahead of time, but unfortunately, we were facing some technical snags, and because of which we weren't really able to start on time. So my apologies to all and sundry who've taken the time out to join this call. Also, I've got one bad news as well. So Mr. Urfi Haider Kazmi from Varun Beverages, who was supposed to join us as a panelist today on the webinar, has had some sort of unforeseen emergency and he will not be able to join. So which means we've got Mr. Venkatesh and Mr. Chhayakanta Sharma with us as panelists. Good morning to both of you. I would like to start off by introducing our panelists as well. So we with Mr. Venkatesh MS, who's the CHRO of Foods, based of NCR. DFM Foods is one of the leaders in the business of manufacturing, selling, and marketing of packaged snack food. I'm a big fan of their tax product as well. So Venkatesh himself comes with a rich experience of more than 25 years in the field of HR, with excellence in organizational transformation, leadership development, talent management and retention across FMCG, heavy engineering, telecom, life insurance, education, consulting, and healthcare. I don't think there is any other left that he's not touching. Yes, he's worked with leading companies including PD, Hinduja Hospital, and Medical Research Center, People Maths Consultancy Services, Salto DFA, Educom Solutions Limited, Coke India, Max New York Life Insurance Company Limited, Bharti Mobile, Infosys, Caterpillar, HU. He completed Master of Social Work, Personal Management and Industrial Relations from the University of Madras. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Morning, Bala. Pleasure joining all of you.
Sir. And next up, we've got Mr. Chhayakanta Sharma, who sales at MTR Foods. MTR Foods is a subsidiary of Norwegian conglomerate Orkla. He comes with 15 years of experience in sales, trade marketing, and activations, to name a few. He's worked with leading companies including SC Johnson, PepsiCo India Holdings. He's worked there for 10 years, and HUL as well. He completed his postgraduate degree from Indian Institute of Management Technology, that is IMT Ghaziabad. Good morning, Chhayakanta Sharma, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Subramaniam. Thank you. Pleasure being here.
Thank you. So the topic for today's webinar is the digital transformation in workforce management. So this has become a buzzword of late, right? I mean, ever since the pandemic started, it's not like companies were not really looking at digital transformation very seriously, but just that ever since the outbreak of the pandemic, it's become even more of a buzzword. A lot of that's when we also got to know TeamLease being a spread to more than 3,000 organizations pan India. We got to know that several MNCs, which have been around for decades together, who are at the forefront of innovation in their respective fields, haven't really given too much of a serious thought to digital transformation until then. And as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. And I guess this ongoing pandemic put us in a situation where we had no choice but to embrace digital transformation, to ensure that we're not really left behind and we're not really able to keep the boat sailing through this pandemic. And I guess it's given organizations a lot of leverage in making sure that the productivity levels don't really dip below a certain level. And it's also given a lot of organizations a way to scale up without really having to invest too much in it either. So we will begin with about, say, 35-40 minutes on a set of questions I've already come up with. And then we'll open it to the house for questions. So to begin with, first question to Mr. Venkatesh. How critical is technology in your field? And since you are from HR and Chhayakanta is from business, we also have the advantage of getting two different perspectives. So being in HR, Mr. Venkatesh will have a very broad view across multiple functions, and Chhayakanta, I guess, will have a very deep view of sales and marketing as a function. So for you, how is technology critical in your field, which is HR? How has it evolved over the years?
So I guess, yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. So I guess HR, it's important for human resources to be aligned with the business. And if you're a strategic business partner and you're going to support the business in all their efforts and their deliverables, and it's important extremely important to digitally connect with all people, because all your processes and like performance or like recruitment, like engagement, or any of the even the dashboards that you want to create, unless you're going to digitize yourself, the manual turnaround methods are already off. So, it's needless to mention that, and I've seen across various sectors, having worked with, FMCG as well as the hospitality, and everyone needs to, from a HR perspective, when you're dealing with such a large number of people, and as a business scales up, and needless to mention that unless you are digitally evolved and linked with your people, it's going to be extremely difficult to build a very, very robust HR practice in whichever organization and deliver to the business actually. So we can go on to the details as to what are some of these critical areas where digital transformation is very, very critical, important. We can talk about that.
All right, perfect. Thanks for setting that context. Yes, it makes absolute sense. It has to go hand in hand, otherwise we'll not really be able to evolve, right? So I completely hear you. So Chhayakanta, what is your view regarding the role of technology in your function? Being a sales head, how important do you think this is, and how do you think it has evolved over the last few years? You would have seen that evolution, having been a part of sales and marketing functions in various organizations like Pepsi, HUL, etc. How do you think it has evolved, and how critical do you think it is for your organization?
So, let me start with a better example. Let's talk about revolution. If you talk about pre-industrial revolution, you would have seen there were kings, queens, they were living the same life, the grandsons were living the same life. There's not much of change in their life. It was almost similar. Decades. Then came the industrial revolution when Mr. Ford came up with a car, and people were asking about faster running horses. Now about self-driven cars. So we have seen kind of three stages. One is pre-industrialization, then you're talking about digitalization, something which is digital kind of a transformation coming in. We're talking about cars. If you want to drive, you can rest for a while. You're not allowed to sleep, but still you can rest on that. And the car can take you to the destination. There's a kind of revolution we have seen. Yeah.
One second, sorry. Mr. Venkatesh, can you please go on mute, because we are hearing some feedback through your mic. And Chhayakanta, can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Can
Go
you
ahead.
hear me now?
Yeah, much better. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I'm talking about there's three stages. If you talk about, I'm giving a background to the digitization or the revolution part. I'm talking about pre-industrialization, industrialization, and current digitization, or digital world, what we talk about. So if you go a little back towards when you can say 100 years ago, or when the kings used to rule, the generation post generations were living the same life. There was not much of a change. They were cultivating, they were living a farm life, they were quite continuing with their life. Then came the industrial revolution. People started coming out, started exploring things, started building things. You made cars, factories, industries came up. Then later now we see something which is a digital transformation. In the same cars, if you see what started with a horse to a car, mechanical car, now we're talking about a self-driven car, which is the digital transformation where you don't need to drive it. Okay, it can take you to the destinations once you put the destination up there, and you can just sit around. So these are the few things I talk about in terms of, if I have to give you a purview of what the transformation has happened so far. Now, when I talk about a journey in sales automation, you remember we're living in a pen and paper throughout all cross functions, different divisions, and any data required. There's no transparency. There's nothing visible in the cross function departments. Today, a digital kind of a thing, a transformation is more of a transparent organ where things are visible till the last mile. And that is where the digital words comes in, the transformation comes in. And if I have to connect in sales, I have seen a ready sales to a OBGTM, order booking, go to market. These are the sales. So I'm not going to explain all that, but I'm just using some kind of you can say technical terms of sales. Hope is good for the forum. So it started with a ready sales to OBGTM to a SFA. In a SFA, then started tracking multiple things. The multiple layers come in. Earlier, we never had a clarity what outlet buys, what time we are spending in that outlet, what kind of store it is, what does it sell. Today, to the last mile, at least with the automation coming in, the digital transformation coming in, we do have a visibility to the last mile. So it's a long journey. I think with the multiple questions you keep asking, I'll keep answering your points, Mr. Subramaniam.
All right, great. No, very interesting perspective and beautifully put. So Stone Age, Industrial Age, and then Digital Age. And that's exactly how things have evolved in all fields, right? I think you gave the example of how the automobile has evolved. Previously, we just had to walk. And we had, animals helping us out. And then we had motor vehicles. And then we have, self-driven vehicles, which are obviously digitally driven. So, no, great. Thanks so much for your perspective. So I think it's clear, and both of you are on the same page that technology is critical to workforce management, and it has evolved by leaps and bounds. And especially over the last, say, 2 decades or so, it's gone through an unprecedented amount of evolution. Yeah. So next up, my question again to Mr. Venkatesh is, what is your view of digital workforce for the future? So where do you see the biggest gap in technology adoption in your whole life cycle? So being part of being an HR leader, so you would obviously go through various aspects of the HR life cycle, say hiring, onboarding, payroll management, performance management, productivity, etc., and then learning and development as well, right? So now that technology is but across aspects of HR life, where do you see the biggest gap right now in terms of adoption? And what thing we can do?
Yeah, so as we are talking, and we are in the process of implementation of our HRMS tool, and as you know, we are also engaged with you guys, on TeamLease while employing our sales force on the field. And I feel while all these other practices such as performance management, or if it is going to be recruitment, or all of these are good, but however, if I have to do a mindset change, if I want to do a fire starter program, for example, on sales, and if I have to train all the ISRs, and if I have to train all the PSRs, which are the pilot sales representatives and institutional sales representatives on the field, who are actually pre-sellers, who have to go outlet to outlet, and if I have to help them imbibe selling skills, and that would, if it's going to be in the local language, and they are overwhelmed with their targets. So obviously, any digital mode of communication is not going to really help and create the impact. So as we are talking, that is an immediate challenge that I'm facing today. So unless there is a definite impact, if I meet all these 100-odd guys in a particular area face to face, and if I do a workshop, and if I take 30 people together, and if I have 6 clusters, and if I am able to interact with them, understand some of their issues, most often it may be a monologue when we do a digital kind of a program, and where people really don't ask questions, and the trainer or the facilitator, whether the person is really engaged or not. So I'm not sure what post-training impact that it would have. So if it's like a program like POSH, where you are going to educate people, bring awareness to them, what is it about, and expose them to the knowledge and the superficial area of understanding, then it's okay. But if you really need to engage people completely, unless they are totally educated and they value the importance of it, so it's going to be a little more challenging. Obviously, if I have to look at an area sales manager and a regional sales manager, imparting any kind of training to him and engaging him through a digital media is far more easier. But if I am looking at engaging the feet on street, so that's going to be a challenge, honestly. But as we are talking, we are exploring how do we, so it's important to be innovative and figure out how could we engage these guys. And that's a challenge that currently I feel. I'm keen to understand if there are some best practices, if any other organization is able to engage through the digital media, all of these feet on street guys on, that too when you want to scale up the sales. And if you want to bring a mindset change in the person, and because he's always in a defending mindset saying that I'm getting overwhelmed with the target. And if you have to look at an attacking mindset, if you have to bring about change in his thinking, that's going to be a little challenging if you're going to do it through a digital media. That's honestly my bias, actually.
Got it. So are you saying that other than your feet on street people, it's relatively easy to drive technology adoption across all types of employees and all functions?
Sorry, say that again, Bala.
I'm saying, so other than your feet on street employees, are you saying that it's much easier to drive technology adoption across all functions and all kinds of employees?
Yeah, I'm only talking about the learning part, which is going to be a little bit of challenge at the lower rung of the ladder. But how even for the feet on street, recruitment or onboarding or any kind of transaction management, whether it is reimbursement or salary payroll or even a kind of engagement survey, that also can be done beautifully on the digital platform. However, when we want to engage an individual, to change behavior, that is something that unless the person is totally engaged and understands the objective of the session and willing to engage by himself, because that's where the education matters a lot. So that's where the challenge lies, and I'm sure that as we move along, people will understand that, and we will evolve there. I mean, I am very optimistic about that.
All right, great. So, Chhayakanta, need your perspectives on the same. If you can shed light on what your view of digital workforce for the future is, and specifically in your function of sales and marketing, where do you see the biggest gap in terms of technology adoption? So, do you also echo the same sentiments of Venkatesh, where he says that for feet on street, it's a little bit to drive things like, say, L&D, or be it in terms of productivity tools and stuff like that? And if you feel it's the same, then what are the measures we can take to make sure that we are still able to drive technology adoption? Or if you think it is not so difficult, what have you done to make sure it is easy for them as well?
Let me answer your question in two phases. One, I'll talk about what, if I talk about past year, what we have witnessed so far, no one has ever thought we will be working from remote locations. Okay? And the social distancing will be the thing which we have to follow. Few are, I would say, the realistic world which we have to live with, and few other things we have to adapt and move upon. I'll talk about what COVID has an impact on the workforce, and how do we see contactless sales, or you can say digital sales, whatever we call it, contactless sales, as a future. If I talk about what COVID had an impact, or is having an impact on the workforces, first, what is coming out, there has to be a rapid rescaling of themselves. Why I'm saying so? Because you find now most of the people who are your top performers, they are not performers anymore, because they are good on feet or street, but they are not good with technology. They're not able to upskill or reskill themselves. That is where a gap is coming up. And if you see, most of the studies says there are generations. This is the grandfather was using, suppose there's a generation, there's a two generation sales now. So the guy is at a 50, 55, this guy is at out from his graduate at 21 or 22. They both are completely diversified. They both have a different approach and both have a different thought process. This guy is upscaling or rescaling with the time, but this guy is somewhere consistently believes certain thought process. They think this is the only way which it can happen. But no one knew this pandemic will change the entire approach. We never knew this will change the approach by the way we go to market, the way we deal with it. There was no blueprint ready so far. No one had any blueprint. No one has any kind of a study to go with, because everyone is learning from the experiences last 1 year. Different case studies and program like this are helping people to understand. So I say rapid rescaling is the one thing which is very important, which is an impact, which is the learnings coming out of COVID. We talk about changing leadership, management, and competences. Why I'm talking about, because leaders will play a very, very important role during this pandemic, whatever we have witnessed, and post-pandemic, the consumer behaviors are going to change even. Consumers are already living a lifestyle since a year and a half now, almost a year now and a couple of months. But going forward, the consumer behaviors are going to remain the same with them. So the digital kind of today, if I have to say, if I have to put a word, a smartphone has replaced the entire world around us. You talk about work from home, you talk about virtual classes, you talk about shopping, you talk about groceries, you talk about medicines, you talk about learnings, you talk about anything on the earth, what you are doing today, most of them you have available on a smart Android phone. So the leadership management has to understand the world is changing and they need to adapt, or they have to change themselves as an organization so they are fit for future. Otherwise, what will happen? The consumer behaviors will start changing and keep on changing with time, and the organization will remain behind. So that's one thing I believe has to happen. Then I believe a culture of trustworthy and transparency has to come in, because no one new will be far of eyesight Today, someone is selling in Delhi, someone selling, I'm selling at my home. My sales was some part of Andhra, somewhere they are sitting and they are working from the remote locations. Somewhere the trust has to be built, because this is again an impact of COVID only. You have to believe that guy is trying his best from the location he is working upon. He is trying to, as an organization, I have to enable him with the tools, which are digital tools now, because he's sitting at his home. Otherwise, he can't reach the trade. So it is very much important how I reach him, how do I build him, how do I coach him within time. As Mr. Venkatesh rightly said, there are challenges, but yes, you have to find a way out. That's the reality today. Then, the fourth point comes as individual and social well-being. I believe today most of the guys are getting stress. That is again a kind of an impact of COVID on the workforce, because they're at home, they're not able to go out. Company has its own targets, company has its own pressure. So it is found in multiple countries. As a study, China reported around 43% are suffering of anxiety. There are certain other industries reported there are around 30% of the population suffering with anxiety. So it happens during this COVID. There's a learning again, the impact on the workforce, which is coming from COVID. From here, how do we again build that morale of the team and take them up? Because anxiety or being anxious is not good in a sales system like us, because we believe the guy has to be strong and brave enough. We follow the brave, trustworthy, and kind of a deliver kind of a go-getter kind of a, you can say, attitude you should carry. A guy who is anxious or suffering with anxiety may not be giving his best on the field. But the last we talk about is working in a more agile way. The reason I say, because the guy at a place he is located, he has to be more agile with the kind of situation he's facing. At a bird's eye view or a helicopter view, where you said you don't know what is happening on the ground, because we all are not moving. So hence it is very important to what the impact is having on our workforce is we have to be very agile, and the organization, we have to be very, very agile now. Now, let me answer your second point. What is that needs to be done to build a contactless sales in the organization? How do we see it? How do we build it? Okay. So what do we see the contactless operations, the sales operations, the consumer engagements are very, very important. Why I'm saying so? Because today, even there is ISR, a salesman has to convert leads into orders. How will he do this? How will he leads are the outlets, leads is the market which is lying in front of us. How do we convert those leads into an order, or how do we generate more productivity, is something which we have to enable and equip them with more technology and training processes. It's not required 100 of them will succeed, but yes, definitely 50-60% or 30% will succeed is good enough for our nation today. Teleselling, telecalling skills are there, the other skills are there which needs to be built up with time as a team. And somewhere the consumer engagement we need to keep building directly from the organization now, where the retailer is aware what schemes you operate, what trade margins you have, what new products you have launched, what benefits are you giving. You have to create a platform to keep engaging with the retailer. I believe the second key point for us as a sales function is very important. We onboard and coach and reskill, rebuild our distributors. So something we miss when we talk about digitization, any process, we miss the biggest link, which is a distributor or a super stockist or a sub distributor. What happens is that we are somewhere missing out on and rescaling of our distributors, where the logistics and everything is real-time scenario today. We have to manage the operations at an oversight, where we know what orders have come in, orders delivered from the distributor point. There are processes to it, but yes, there is a gap between the sales team which is working on the ground and a distributor. Somewhere this SFA enabled, or if you have a boat tree, you have other systems, you get a visibility, but it is not good enough, because all your distributors are not equipped or not have upgraded themselves with a digital sales kind of a platform. They are still believe the order comes from the market, I'll deliver it, but they haven't approached or haven't, you can say, tried new methods of sales, which I believe needs, as an organization, we need to push them when the time has come. Is distributor, we need to look at the capability of the distributors and our, you can say the GTM kind of a structure what we have today, and what we need to make this pandemic coming in for our future. How do we see the distributors for future? Second, I talk about is trade planning and execution. There's a real-time dashboard to talk about it. And if you have to activate contactless engagement, you should know where you are, where you want to go, and where you want to reach. And it comes from the peer groups, from the learnings from across industries, what is happening on the ground. You can read multiple reports from McKinsey, Deloitte, AC Nielsen. Today, they are even whatever I have spoken, I have read from multiple, you can say, sources, which is AC Nielsen, McKinsey, and Deloitte are talking about. Today, the workforce impact due to this pandemic, what is happening, how people are suffering, is not only a good point. Digital transformation, talk about one part, but yes, COVID has larger implications, or you can say, you can say the impacts which are even pulling down few organizations. So somewhere the workforce has to be, you can say, motivated, strong enough at the time, and reskilling is somewhere is the key, and agility is the key with what I believe. So I have answered in 2 phases. So hope I have answered your point.
No, absolutely. I completely understand what you've been trying to do with respect to digitalizing your complete sort of supply chain, I would say, or your go-to-market strategy itself. So where is the biggest gap exactly in this whole chain? Is it more with the distributors being a little rigid, or as you mentioned earlier on, is it more to do with the older part of your workforce being stuck in their mindset? As you said, somebody who's 50 plus has a certain way of going about doing things in the market, and he believes that that's the only way to do it, as against somebody who's a fresh pass out who is more open towards adopting technology. So is the biggest gap coming from the age group, certain age group of your feet on street people, or is it the biggest gap coming from distributors being a little rigid about not adopting technology, or where exactly would you put a finger on the biggest gap?
You are asking multiple questions. Okay. So if I have to ask you, are you asking me from a top management level or from a frontline level? The question is targeted where?
Okay, so I am talking
about
sales and marketing, your sales and marketing workforce, right? So within the sales and marketing workforce, which is, obviously what you are driving personally, where do you see the biggest gap in terms of tech adoption? Is it with respect to your distributors themselves being a little rigid, or maybe they are open, but within your feet on street workforce, maybe it is certain group of, maybe the older people, as you said, is it them who are not adopting technology as much as they should have? So where do you see the biggest gap?
To be honest, last 1 year I have been trying to implement technology, and I could, in some parts. So last year during the pandemic itself, we have launched contactless platforms, which were digital platforms to place order, get order from the market. See, it's a journey. You can't say within a year's time, because I have to say the entire digital world has evolved even to extent of 10x during this pandemic. Okay, and most of the companies started up, you can say, implementing contactless sales during this pandemic only. It's a learning, it's a phase. Okay, the sales industry is 100 years old industry, where the entire process and everything, 1905, from there onward it started. Companies are building in structure, organization, culture, everything is coming in shape from them. It's a 100-year-old industry. People are still learning sales. If I talk about digital world, it's hardly a year-old story. So we ran out where are the difficulties. Let us take the learnings out of it. What is working for us? What is working for us? And that is what something has to be replicated. There will be issues. There's a way you look at the current scenario. There will be issues. When we talk about a 100-year-old ecosystem, there are still trainers teaching us the same sales methodology year on year in the training programs. You have to talk like this, you have to sell like this, 10 steps of call, 7 steps of call. But no one has so far, I can say, dotted down completely a sales call in a digital manner. There's no blueprint so far available. How can you expect a guy to go and execute in the market? It is a learning, I would say. The better you implement it, learn it faster, execute it faster, rather than waiting for something to happen. So I am not seeing any challenges, if you ask me, because it is hardly a year-old kind of approach. When my 100-year-old approach is still guys are learning and upgrading themselves, how can I say a year-old kind of a methodology which I've implemented, executed in market is giving me results? So I should not be too pumped, but yes, I have to be very careful and watchful of this.
So I have to say that's probably the most interesting answer I've ever got to that question. I've posed this question to multiple sales and marketing leaders, but that's probably the most interesting answer I've got. I mean, you're absolutely right. The traditional methods are more than a century old, and people are still learning it. It's not perfect yet, but it's probably a formula that works, right? And you cannot, I think it's a little too early to say as to this is the biggest gap that I have in tech adoption within my sales and marketing workforce, because it's hardly a year old and we've only now started understanding it ourselves. So we can't really expect much. As long as there is some interest, some engagement that's happening on the ground level and things are moving in the right direction, that's good, right? I hope I understood what you're trying to say.
To answer one more point, there are success stories. There are multiple success stories. Big Basket is a big success story. To see, but they are selling the same consumable goods what we sell.
Yeah.
They survive. They bounce back. Udaan bounce back. Deal share. There are many examples available around us. Amazon is a very old story. I'm not taking the name of Amazon or Flipkart here. I'm talking about the new entrants, the omni-channel. Just emerged in 3 years, 4 years, they are doing good. They are becoming aggregators. They are becoming our competitors. They have the power to launch their own private label today. They're competing with us with sales and technology. What they have? They have a technology tool, plus they have experienced sales team and approach. And the combination of it is threatening. I would say Metro is doing the same thing with our virtual sales today. They are moving direct. Everyone today. So it is again, as an opportunity, is a threat to us as well. As an organization, we have to be much prepared before it backfires us. Because everyone is upgrading themselves. There's only channels are coming in a large way. They have cash today, they have money to burn, which our profitable organizations generally don't do. Okay, and I think it's not only a pro and con, but somewhere you have to be very careful and watchful how this trend is going forward.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Chhayakanta. That was very insightful. So my next question again to Mr. Venkatesh. Another area where technology is helping us a lot is in the field of analytics. So can you help us understand the role of analytics in HR? Since you're an HR leader, what is the role of analytics in HR and how do you see it evolving in the future?
See, I would say I've always championed this return on investment, because HR is seen as a, many organizations look at HR as a support function, not as a strategic function, which is the teeth of the business. Normally, the bias is, okay, HR guys are the support function to be at the tail of the business. So I guess, my honest view is the HR guy needs to be a business consultant and should be able to look at lead indicators. So if I were to look at the recruitment per se, so what are the vacant mandates? Can we start looking at vacant mandates? If I look at the recruitment and attrition and build what is the cost, lead time and quality. So we need to very, very clearly define this. So a dashboard for HR is one of the important business metric. So whether it is engagement score or whether it is if you have to improve the quality of recruitment, because everybody is in a hurry to go and recruit. So attrition, if I look at an attrition in a typical organization, the reasons for attrition could be possibly poor performance. I'm talking about the most impacting, most of the times, a large percentage of business is brought by the feet on street. I'm looking at the sales guys. And if I look at the sales attrition, and it could be because of poor performance, or it could be because of personal reasons. And you can really count those guys who have left you because of better prospects, right? And are we able to track what is the reason for so much of attrition because of poor performance or personal reasons? Can we look at the reasons if you do an attrition analysis and look at how can I rationalize, arrest these things to a quality tool? So if you have to, then it comes to quantitative and qualitative method of sieving a CV. So getting the entire CV and analyzing this, understanding the factors when I source a particular application, looking at the quantitative, features of the CV, because we need to have data for this. So if I know a particular, profile does not match, and this profile most probably will leave us because of whatever reason. If you are able to have some predictive tools, then you have won this battle. And obviously, the interview process is going to be definitely subjective. But at least if you're going to have some predictive analytics of why a person would leave, what kind of, quantitative specs will help you to, get the stickiness of a particular person in an organization. While interviewing, looking at behaviors, now interviewing is one of the methods of aspects. So can I use some other online tools of, preferred behavior tool? So it's a host of data points which accumulate together to make a selection decision. So if you don't have a technology to help you get all these data points to put together, and if you don't do it on a daily basis, or if you don't do it on a monthly basis, if you don't review all of those things, I don't think we will be doing justice to the business. And obviously, we will lose respect as HR guys being at the tail of the business and not being at the teeth of the business. If you are able to look into the eyes of a sales guy and tell, hey, listen, this kind of person is what will suit your business. And this is the way possibly we have to look. There's going to be a healthy debate and deliberation, and we need data of past as well as present, as well as what is going to be in the future. So you need to show to the sales guy, and maybe you are wrong, or at least you may have an hypothesis which gets proved wrong or which gets proved right. So those are some things that even today the entire selection world is looking at. But it's important. Some of these low-hanging fruits can be easily addressed, and if you have to address them, you need to have a definite dashboard which at least tells you where you are and in which direction are you and how to course correct in the way you're forwarding, in the way you're moving ahead. So I just gave you an example of recruitment. So you can look at it from an attrition, or you can look at it even if you look at the entire employee life cycle, the host of data points, right from performance, or at the time of recruitment, what is the kind of comment, what was the kind of assessment, or at the kind, if you do an assessment center or a development center, what are the kind of inputs that you're getting, engagement survey data points could come. So there are a host of data points which can help to assess an employee better and build a fair and robust process of engaging the employee better. So I guess dashboard is very, very important, and we need to look into the most taken for granted data point more closely than what we used to take it for granted. So it's important to look at why it's happening the way it's happening, and then come to some kind of decision point, and important to also convince the stakeholders and take feedback and correct that and move ahead.
Got it. Right. And Chhayakanta, so like, for example, Mr. Venkatesh, being an HR leader, is more focused on managing attrition with the help of analytics and so on. I guess it's about sales performance, I guess, which is the most important KRA, right? So how do you the role of analytics in driving the deliverables of your function? And what do you think we should do, which we are not really doing today from an analytics perspective?
See, again, if we talk about data analytics, is something people are learning. People are used to look data in a certain way, but now there's a huge transformation coming in data analytical skills. There are multiple things. Again, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of darkness around as well. So it is again what data you need to pick and what data need to come on dashboard is again people are learning. It's still a learning curve for many because they don't know what data points they need to read and what data will have a replication or a output or productivity of what. So there are learnings. Answering your point, sales is impacted even with attrition as well. So it's very important we have minimum or least attrition in sales force. Even the productivity wise, the same as frontline SSM, ISR, sales officer, if we see attrition for that route beat, we see a drop in sales. So it is very important for us not to lose people. Now, your question, to answer your question, you're asking about how data will help you in terms of building more sales and how do we review data systems and how do we analyze data. See, there are multiple data tools available today in the market. As an organization, you need to understand where you stand today. And as an organization, what data points do you need to look at? That is very, very important. Many people miss, many go with tools, they run behind tools, but really they need to understand what lever will have what returns or what you can say kind of productivity, drive what kind of productivity for them. There is the biggest gap today. Many leaders fail to understand it. They go tomorrow, a strike rate is good, KPI is good, but they don't read many of the data points. Today, there's a town class, there's a population, there's a cluster, the classification of outlet, there are geographies, the rural is behaving very differently, there are priority 1 town, there are priority 2 towns. So as a sales guy, it's not only one data or productivity you can look at, but there are multiple angles, there's multiple views are available on data and analytics today. Then again, if I have to move a level, drill up a bit and talk about how to look into the sales force, how they analyze the data and how do we read that data. There are certain fixed data points as a sales guys we have been following since ages. There's a productivity, there's a strike rate, there's a LPSC. We have been doing it. But now with the time moving up and digitization playing a role, we need to understand which outlet, which beat, which area contributing what sales, what product do we sell in which kind of outlet, what types of outlets are contributing what kind of sales for me, what are the set of outlets where I can launch NPD, what is the set of outlets the products are doing better, what is the replacement happening there, what is the priority come from the same store, what is the same store growth, how the store is behaving, how can I do multiple activities in that particular store, what is the footfall of the store, many pieces I'm selling, what is the industry selling. I can capture multiple data. As I said, data analytics is something people are learning. Again, you can talk about Power BI tools coming in, or a company launching Samna as a PepsiCo, or the Hindustan Lever launching, again, they have Udan, and they have other, PNG has a different platform. These are all 6, 7, 8 years old hardly. The GTM journey is not the old journey. People are still learning, understanding, and evolving. So we do have multiple learnings with us. As I said, we look into multiple data aspects, not one. But to answer it perfectly, what data will leverage the sales? Every company has a tool today. They would have grown by 20 or 30% odd as a stable company. This is not the case. Companies are growing by 10 or 2% growth or 15% growth with the highest growth they are delivering. So data is helping them to grow, but today there's a long way to learn, long way to learn, if I have to answer.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So one last question before we jump into the audience questions. So Mr. Venkatesh, what is the most important thing that you look for while identifying the right technology platform for your function?
So I will look at it from a point of ease of navigation and how easy to administer it and how user friendly it is, to be very, very simple, to make it very, very simple. And will I get the domain support? So if I have to buy an HRMS tool, so is the supplier has some domain expertise from HR, and if he's able to sit on a CHRO chair and is able to visualize what all it needs to address, that's one of the most important things I look at, because all of the other aspects, every vendor will claim that he has it or they can bring that. But however, what's important is the domain competence or the domain knowledge from HR perspective or from a business perspective. Is the person able to bring value to the tool is what I will definitely look at.
All right, perfect. So Chhayakanta, same question to you. So for your function, that is for sales, what is the single most important while identifying the right technology platform?
Look for what?
That's the question. That's the question. So what do you look for? What is the most important thing that you look for while choosing the right technology platform for your function, that is sales?
So while we choose a technology platform for sales?
No. So when you are choosing a technology platform, so if and when you choose the right technology platform or right technology partner for your sales function, what is the most important thing that you look for? It could be a feature, it could be a functionality, it could be something else, right? But then what is the single most important factor which will help you make the decision as is the right technology partner solution for you that way?
Also, it matters a lot with whom you are working with. Whom are you partnering with? What capabilities or strength he has is very, very important. And you need to again introspect, ask, go deep, understand his capabilities and skill set. Can we expand him? Can we really go large with him? We have tried with few people who collapse in between, few people who go long, but they don't have a lot of capabilities to build a stronger future. It's very, very important whom are we partnering with is the most important thing I believe coming here. What kind of skill set, knowledge as a founder or a CEO they have, what is the strength they have, what are the success stories of the past, what they have built in the past, maybe any success story of theirs, really understand with them. That makes a larger, it's a difference than a lot of skill set. But if you are not sustainable, if you are not trustworthy or reliable, doesn't make sense me going ahead with you. Whom I am going to partner with. That's point number one. Point number two, do they have a relevant exposure or experience of my industry? Do they really understand how do we operate? Do they really understand what challenges we go through? Do they understand how this industry operates? Do they understand what are the levers needs to be impacted? Is the lag and lead measures which needs to be, which is going to have an impact on my sales? What is it going to build? What data point do I need to look at? What are my challenges? What are my bottlenecks? Is he able to understand those challenges, or overcome my bottlenecks? Is there something is able to provide me or not? Technology today, to be honest, in India is filled with so many engineering colleges around across, and people are doing some other job. And you talk about engineers today, most startups are Indians, okay, who are providing technology and consourcing their in USA as well. But it's very, very important whom are we partnering with. Again, the exposure, as I said, relevant partner is very, very important. The technology part, if we're looking at, as I said, it should fit for future. It has to be sustainable, reliable, has to be trustworthy, because a lot of data flows into it, a lot of data you get into it. If we don't have that visibility, that security or data privacy, our digital is kind of a sin and a blessing, I can say. Once you debate on this, we'll understand there are negative sides of this as well. But yes, I'm not just I want to stretch it, but here I am, and I say matters with the partner who are partnering matters a lot.
Got it. So based on what you said, so relevant experience, reliability, and stability, right? So those things really matter a lot. Got it. Perfect. So we've got a couple of questions from the audience, and we've got some more questions as well, which we've got offline. So I've just compiled them and put them together in a rapid fire format, right? So I'll ask a set of 7 questions to each of you. Yeah, and you need to give me an answer instantly without having any second thoughts, and it has to be a short answer as well. Yeah. So with Mr. Venkatesh, interestingly, just as a reminder to the audience, so the theme that we wanted to have for today's webinar is leaders who are in the food and beverage industry, specifically, not just FMCG overall, but food and beverage industry. In fact, even Urfi was part of Varun Beverages, or is part of Beverages. He wasn't able to join, so that was a theme that we had broadly, so that it is comparable organizations who are in a very similar situation. And while different organizations are in different situations in this pandemic, then organizations which are from the same industry and specifically the same segment of the industry would be in a very, very similar space. And that's the objective behind us bringing together these leaders. So I believe it will make sense for us to ask these same set of questions to both people and see if there is any similarities or differences. So yeah, so when do we go back to pre-COVID levels of growth in this country? Is it 2 quarters, 3 quarters, or not?
Really, I don't know. Last year we thought by this time we should be able to get back to normalcy, and as we, possibly we are looking at the third wave, which is going to hit us. So if you're asking when do we go back to the pre-COVID levels of normalcy, is that your question, Bala?
Yes.
Boss, that's $1 billion question. So, I don't know whether at all we will go back. Another question is, whether normalcy is going to be as normal as we had seen in the past. Now, it's important to expect the unexpected. That's the mindset one needs to have. And we are looking at what are the other ways of, bringing about business innovation, right? So we have to look at how do we distribute, to different other sectors of the market, and look at e-commerce. And if you're looking at e-commerce, your pack size and all of those things, logistics have to change, your has to change, distribution has to change. And at what levels are we going to change this? So those are some questions that we are looking at. Yes, there will be some kind of normalcy. We are hopeful that pre-COVID levels of normalcy will come back, but I'm not sure whether it will be 100% as much. But whatever we get pre-COVID levels is, what to do. Now, up and happening, we don't know what could happen, but we need to anticipate and see what are the methods in which you can, in the current situation, only look at what are the ways of looking at distribution differently, and how can you do that better or bring it to the same level as we were in pre-COVID times. That's the first challenge, I would say. So honestly, if you ask me, I really don't have a solution, to be very, very honest. And I don't know, how do we do that?
Sure. Sir, my request is, it's a rapid fire round. So if you could just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, right? Then,
all right, sorry.
Yeah, no issues at all. So second question is, would you think there would be lesser jobs in our country in the next 12 months? I mean, because of the advent of technology and stuff like that?
Sorry, say that again.
Would there be lesser jobs in our country 12 months from now because of the advent of technology, digitalization?
No. No.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Do you think the average wages will go down in 6 months or 12 months?
No.
Okay. Would organizations have an antibiotic reaction to any arrangement which is permanent in nature because of the uncertainty that is around us now the last year or so? For example, permanency in terms of office lease, permanent employees, permanent compensation or fixed compensation, etc. Do you think organizations will have an antibiotic reaction towards these things going forward or not? Okay. What is your level of attrition now over the last 1 year? Has it come down significantly compared to what it was before the pandemic, or has it actually gone up because of people leaving for their hometown, etc., or is it almost the same?
It's almost the same for me.
Okay.
And in fact, people are looking at, they're still getting better jobs.
Wow. Okay. So that's very interesting. Do you think in business there will be a certain percentage of your workforce which is going to permanently work from home?
It will go into permanently?
Work from home.
No, that would not happen. But
Okay.
we become more flexible.
Got it. Fair enough. I'm also going to throw in a couple of questions that have come from the audience as well. So this question is from Suyog. So what are the top challenges while using data and implementation of BI? What are the possible solutions that we are looking at to solve this problem?
Top challenges is lead indicators. Identifying lead indicators is very, very important. So unless one applies, to the basic process and looks at what are the lead indicators and how can we build those lead indicators, it's going to be, everything is possible as long as you ask for it and you experiment with it and do something to bring that, define that.
Okay, got it. Next question is from Abhishek. His question is, cost is attached to technology. So how do you convince management to get the technology? How do you position it?
Yeah, you have to bring the business benefit, return on investment that I'm talking about. What is the current cost? What will be the cost of technology? And what are the benefits that you would get? So the business benefit analysis has to be done and presented. And you have to present a case. You have to present a business case.
Got it. Okay. Last question is from Ankur. So his question is, should it be a CSR initiative to utilize technology to make workforce life healthier and better?
Why should it be a CSR initiative? It is an employee engagement initiative.
Great. All right. Fair enough. So I think that's about it. I'll move on to Chhayakanta as well. So I'll start with my rapid fire questions and then I'll move on to the same audience questions as well. So when do you think we will go back to the pre-COVID levels of growth in our country? Could it be 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarters down the line or more?
See, I'm quite optimistic. I'm seeing US has already rolled out no mask required. Okay, and we are getting vaccinated. I think the course of time, I think it will be a year or two by the time the entire population should get vaccinated and we can roam on roads freely.
Okay, great. All right. Now, I would love that too. Let's just hope it happens. Next one is, do you think there will be lesser jobs in our country in the next 12 months because of the pandemic?
See, the skill set will change. Jobs are going to be there. The required skills are going to be there.
All right. Do you think the average wages will go down?
It will go up.
Okay. Do you think organizations will have an antibiotic reaction towards any arrangement which is permanent in nature, say permanent office lease or long-term office lease, permanent employees, permanent compensation, etc.? Or do you think that trend will not change?
You are putting many categories in one question. Okay. Office lease, commercial space definitely will have a lot of changes coming in. It's going to be dynamic in nature. Things will change a lot. That's for sure. But you're putting many things into one question. You need to take one by one each scenario and have to answer. But I would say many will and many will.
Okay, fair enough. All right. What has been your level of attrition within your workforce, basically, right? Prior to the pandemic, if it was X, was it over the last 12 months? Has it been more or less the same number, that is X%, or has it been higher or lower?
See, can I take 30 seconds to answer this? Because this is a very, very
Sure.
See, there's a study which has come in. It says which organization under which one people are leaving and where people are retaining. Okay, so there are two sets of organization people have. This case study which has come up. It says organization which are able to build certain culture and trust within the employees. People have to feel or believe this company will take care of us. They are not leaving, irrespective of salaries or whatever. They're sticking to it. That issue levels are 7 to 8%, not zero. But still, people are leaving. Okay, at certain levels, certain bands, people are leaving, but it's very, very low. A certain organization where the uncertainty is very, very high. They've gone through a changes, transformation, or they are tweaking their processes. There, the attrition can be seen on a higher side. It is a case to case when to take. MTR is a company, I believe, has been taken from last year well. And luckily, we as an organization are growing and delivering our numbers. This is happening hand on hand. Hence, I think there's not much of pressure. But overall, if I talk about an organization like PepsiCo, where I've worked, or SC Johnson, I've worked, or I'm working here, SC Johnson has gone through a transformation now, where we have seen some attrition coming in. PepsiCo is having very stable company. Hardly people left, even in the BBL group, which has been taken over recently. PepsiCo India Holdings Private Limited. It depends mostly on the organization, if I have to answer.
Okay, great. So last rapid fire question. Do you think in your business, there will be a certain percentage of people who can permanently work from home? Is that going to happen?
FMCGs, I'm doubtful. FMCGs, I'm doubtful. Other industries, yes.
Okay, sure. Fair enough. Makes sense. Going to the audience question. So cost is attached to technology, obviously. So how do you, after choosing the right technology platform, how do you take management and how do you convince them to invest in this?
See, I'll echo Mr. Venkatesh, what he has said. There has to be a business case. Okay. What is the ROI? What do you see? What the deliverables are going to be? I think he has answered it perfectly. So I don't need to be the same things. I echo him.
All right, perfect. Should it be a CSR activity to utilize technology to improve the health and well-being of employees?
See, anywhere the cost is involved for productivity, it can't be a CSR activity.
Okay, makes sense. What are the top challenges that you have faced or you think you will face while using data and implementation of business intelligence tools, BI tools, and what do you think we can do to solve this problem?
See, end of the data has to be executed. What are the learnings of data comes out has to be executed by human beings. In sales, it has to be executed by human beings. Here, the challenge is about the skill set. Okay, and it's about what skill will grade a person has who has to execute it. So now you have to really put into quadrant where are you giving him what task. You have to understand who are potential performers. You have to be in delegating or subordinating. You have to really understand who is going to deliver what task. And unlike before, you give it to everyone. So data are again, if I have to just cut it short, data are something which comes as an output. Input has been gained by manpower. You understand where is the weakness, where are the challenges, and you have to create those challenges. There's a transparency to the down level. If you create those challenges, your data output will be good. So end of that, the input comes from the ground level in sales.
Right. Makes sense. Perfect. I guess that's pretty much all I had for today. And I want to apologize once again to our wonderful panelists and also to all of our great participants for the technical snags that we faced, because of which we lost some 10 minutes at the beginning. Really sorry. Like I said, this is unprecedented. But despite that, thank you so much to Mr. Venkatesh and Mr. Chhayakanta for taking time out of their busy schedule to give us all of their insights with respect to how the industry is changing and evolving with respect to digitalization. And thank you so much for all the participants for joining in as well. Thanks a lot and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Venkatesh. Thank you.